Welcome in to the latest episode of Betting the Pitch, the European Soccer Edition, specifically focused on the Champions League. I'm your host, Real_G Warner. Let me tweet this out so people know that I am live. And we're going to go through the second leg of the knockout rounds, the round of 16 in Champions League. I want to make sure that everything is going as expected. Of course, I have mic selected as always. Hopefully everyone can hear me. And hopefully it didn't drop out as I switched it right there. We are 36-13, 73% year to date. We'll be discussing the second legs, of course, the first legs that we've already seen, plus the two advanced numbers, how they've adjusted, and give you an idea of what I'm doing with my two advanced futures that I'm holding. Also, we'll be going through each game on the Champions League slate, and we'll be coming up with exactly what to do and what to bet. I'll smash that together. One pick from Tuesday, one from Wednesday, and that will be represented my ultimate best bet under @the_Real_G Warner on Instagram and on YouTube if you want this in a 1-minute version instead of the 30 minutes or so we're going to do tonight. Other than that, I want to also promote my Need for Seeds college basketball podcast. My good friend and co-host at Big East Ben. If you're not watching live, I was just putting in my t-shirt. Especially if you want some merch, hit up at Big East Ben on Twitter. But we did a Monday night episode covering the biggest conference tournaments in college basketball. And then we'll have an episode tomorrow also on the pregame.com podcast site. You can find it on Twitter, on Twitter, twitter.com/pregame now. Also where you get your podcast, go search for RJ Bell's Dream Preview, and it'll be under there. We'll be doing another episode for tomorrow outlining some of our top games, and then the rest of the week's going to be pretty tough because there are going to be matchups that are going to be decided every day, and then lines will be posted late. But do expect us to go live after each night of the NCAA tournament like we did last year. At Big East Ben went 11-0. Every best bet he made won last year. So we're going to try to equal that, or at least I'm going to try to do that too. And then, of course, we'll still be doing plenty of college basketball plus soccer stuff, everything you could literally ask for. This is probably the busiest week or a couple weeks of the year for me. If you want me in your pool or in any sort of college basketball postseason event, let me know. I'd love to play. I'd love to go head-to-head or anything that floats your boat. Let me know at @the_Real_G Warner across all social media platforms. And last but not least, before I get into this, if you could leave a 5-star review under Betting the Pitch on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, it's huge for the search rankings. Might be doing a new episode potentially on a racing front coming up. Let me know if you're interested in that. 5-star review, tell me you want something F1 related, would certainly be a nice push in the correct direction. Okay, so let's start with Barcelona and Benfica. They are first match up in the early window, starting at 1:45 Eastern time, because we have gone through daylight savings time here in the United States, but they have not in Europe as of yet. Let's do Benfica, Barcelona. So the first leg, we saw Barcelona win 1-0 on the road in Lisboa, or in Lisbon. Currently, Barcelona 1.5 goal favorites at home, almost on the juice on the Benfica side. Totals 3.5, and is juiced very heavily to over. So a little bit of a surprise considering how low scoring the first match was. I mean, we saw, I think, a total that closed at 3.25. If I remember correctly. I can look that up pretty quickly. Yeah, it looks like 3.25 was the last. We did see some 3.5. So clear that number got ate up and never got even close. And I wonder, does that mean that Barcelona have changed their game plan? They're going to play a really defensive brand of football? Nope, that's not going to happen. That's not how Hansi Flick does it. You never will. So that makes me think that we get some goals in this matchup, especially because Benfica away from home cannot play as conservatively because they will go out as they are behind by a goal. The nice part is there's no road goals that matter anymore, so that's certainly helpful to the Benfica cause, but also means that they can probably play pretty conservatively until they have to come out, which every minute that ticks away, there's certainly more chance that Benfica will have to start taking some chances. That's where Barcelona will be in best position. However, Barcelona is really built, or really how they play games, is it doesn't really change whether they're ahead behind, any sort of control. They just want to score goals, and they're going to try to outscore you. That's how they play. I think that is a really great strategy against teams that can't score, but Benfica certainly can. They've made it to the round of 16 in Champions League. They had to get through that first playoff round, the round of 24, after qualifying for the league phase. But Still a very talented team, one of the best, if not the best, in the Portuguese Liga and Liga Portugal, and honestly have one of the best youth systems out there. We'll see if they can avoid some big mistakes, because that seems to be something that happens to younger teams, though Benfica have plenty of professionals on Di Maria, certainly not young by any means. But the big question is how do you feel about Barcelona? I think their defense and their plan can work against the weaker clubs, which is what you need in league play if you're trying to win every match and try to score 5 goals, because the bottom of the Liga can only score 1, or the bottom of the Bundesliga back when Hansi Flick was managing Bayern München. But at this point, to me, I think against the best clubs in the world, Benfica, I do consider to be one of them. They're in Champions League. That doesn't mean everything, but I do think that there's some weaknesses that can be exploited. And I'm pretty interested because Barcelona are celebrating if they win 1-0 or by a single goal. They're celebrating if they draw. They're probably not celebrating if they lose by a single goal, because they'll be heading to extra time. But there's a lot of room here for Benfica to cover if they're not winning this match. The problem is that they're going to have to extend out, especially when they fall behind, or at least when time gets it's not on their side from the beginning. But as the time starts to whittle away, then when does the one Barcelona goal, if they're equal or if they're tied at that time, when does the second Barcelona goal go in? And there are a lot of questions there that I think are valid. Problem is, you never know when that first one for Barcelona goes in. We saw in the first leg that only one went in the whole matchup, which considering it closed as Barcelona closed a 3-quarter goal favorite away. Yes, they covered, but you got half your stake back if you bet Benfica and the 3/4 of a goal for it climbed from a half. So to me, there's some good, I guess, room for Benfica to cover here, but still lose a match. I think under 3.5 is probably my biggest interest, though it's not a strong one. I don't know that I ever really want to play or get too involved with any unders involving Barcelona at this point, because I just don't trust their defense. Certainly the total is bigger than I made it, but there certainly does open up some room for fireworks in second legs, because you can't be conservative. And every goal that Barcelona scores, Benfica will need 2, and that can certainly cause some fireworks. That probably means I want to play or at least stay far away from the total and probably be more interested in the side. We'll move next, I guess, to the 2 advanced numbers before I get too far away from that. So let's do that now. Let's see, make sure I'm switching my tabs as quickly as possible. So initially, Benfica, they were a plus 360 underdog. They're now 9.25 to 1. So plus 925, $100 bet in the US will win you 925 plus get your stake back. That's an increase of 61%, which makes sense. They lost the home leg, and now they have to go on the road to Barcelona and get a win, not even a result, to advance. And that honestly would then lead to extra time, and that's not exactly a guarantee you're going to get through. Though certainly plus 925 in penalties would be nice. On the Barcelona side, they've climbed from minus 500, 1-5 to 1-20 based on a single goal advantage, which seems monstrous. But of course, the sports books are protecting from the amount of Barcelona money that hits, but also they don't want to give any free money away to teams that are ahead and are moving to a home leg. So is there value on Benfica? Probably not at that wide of a spread. I think you want 2 legs, and especially you don't want the second leg away and having to overturn a deficit. But I don't really think that Barcelona are that strong, especially not in this stage. So I do like Benfica getting the 1.5. That's probably my biggest interest in this matchup. Moving next to the, let's go next to Liverpool, and they are hosting PSG, as I want to make sure I forgot to retweet it from my podcast account so everyone knows that we're live. And now that is done, and let's get into it. Okay, so Liverpool, they won 1-0, kind of stole a match on the road at the Parc des Princes in Paris. Didn't look like they deserved much, but got a late counterattack, scored a goal from Harvey Elliott, subbed on for Mohamed Salah, I want to say in like the 88th minute. And that was only scoring. So again, another low scoring matchup, which we've seen Champions League certainly have that ability at times. From a Liverpool's perspective, they're far and away in front in the Premier League. So this should be the competition they're most focused on. They do have the Carabao Cup final this weekend, though, which is a pretty big deal, especially odd that Newcastle had to play a Monday matchup, though I guess that benefits and makes the playing field a little bit more equal for Liverpool and for Newcastle, both playing at Wembley Stadium on Sunday, I believe, this weekend. From PSG's perspective, they are far and away ahead in Ligue 1 in France and had a huge bunch of late goals to really crush my +1 on Rennes this weekend, which was brutal. 2 goals in stoppage time to make a 2-1 match, which looked like Rennes might be close enough to drawing and then turned to 4-1 victory. But that's what PSG does. PSG do. They score, but they couldn't at home to Liverpool. So they're going to have to go in guns blazing to Anfield, and they're going to have to be aggressive. They're going to try to possess the ball, which is exactly what Liverpool want to do at home as well. But I do think that PSG and Luis Enrique, former Barcelona manager, former Spanish national team manager, I mean, he's a possession guy. I think more so than Arne Slot. And I think that Liverpool are going to be much more pragmatic. Now, in terms of the 1-0 scoreline that went in Liverpool's favor, they are a quarter goal favorite at home. All the juice on PSG total is 3, juice slightly more to over. And while we're discussing the game line, I mean, PSG, if they draw, they're out. So they need to win. That does give me some interest in the quarter of a goal, though certainly you could see that goalkeeper pulled and Donnarumma is not outrunning anybody back to his own net to score to prevent a goal late in the final dying embers of a match. With that said, I think there's also plenty of opportunities where that doesn't happen. There's no goal scored then, and maybe it's worth potentially backing PSG to pull off an upset at Anfield. I don't think that Liverpool is as strong as their dominance in the Premier League or first seed in Champions League has really proven, or if that's even proven anything. What I do think, though, is that PSG are I mean, it's hard when you sell Kylian Mbappe, the best player in the world, to Real Madrid, or he leaves on a free. But at this point, a free transfer, there's no compensation for it. But I do think PSG are still very strong. I think they have just as good of a chance in this competition because they've got so much depth, so much talent. Bradley Barcola is awesome, and Ousmane Dembélé is playing better than any, I think, player in all of European soccer at this point, global soccer, everything. The difference maybe is that he plays in the Farmers League, as the British media will call it, but and certainly Liga is not as strong as it has been in the past. Only PSG are around this competition, though PSG did play Stade Brestois, and one of the Liga sides had to remain in this competition. But I do think there's some value potentially backing PSG. Now, the 2 advanced number of PSG plus 260, 2 advanced Liverpool minus 340, where that moved from is initially PSG were 1.5 to 1 odds to get through, minus 185 on Liverpool, increases and decreases or whatever of about 42.5 to 46% between the two of them. So as you'd expect, Liverpool, similar to Barcelona, go win away and then come home. Very good chance that Liverpool do advance here, but it is kind of interesting to see the vast discrepancy between these two in terms of the 2 advanced numbers compared to Barcelona and Benfica. Same 1-0 scoreline, same big favorite moving home. But clearly Barcelona 1.5 goal favorites at home versus Liverpool only a quarter goal favorite with a lot of juice on PSG. And considering that PSG closed a quarter goal favorite at home to Liverpool in the first leg does give PSG, I think, a lot to draw upon. I don't think they're looking at numbers here or odds or anything like that. But I do think PSG is worth looking at a quarter of a goal underdog. And I do think the under 3 is of interest to me because I think Liverpool will try to get out of this by keeping PSG out of their net. I think PSG will control the ball. I think there's a good chance that PSG are able to score. We might see extra time here. There's a possibility that we don't. And I do think that there's probably some value in playing both under and PSG because I just find it hard to believe that PSG are going to lose this match 3-1 or something like that. Yes, it's going to be tough away from home. But I do think Liverpool are going to play a defensive brand. And while this, I think, is their most important competition, they do have a trophy on the line. And this is a round of 16. So I do wonder exactly how much Liverpool is pressing end of match to try to blow us out. I mean, hard to say, and a lot of things are up in the air. We'll certainly see based on lineups for this matchup as they look ahead to Newcastle on the weekend. They should win that match, but they're a pretty big favorite. But ultimately, there's so many more rounds of this competition and better clubs than Newcastle to play. So certainly, we'll wait and see what that all looks like as we get close to kickoff at 4 p.m. Eastern time here in the United States with that extra hour. We'll move next to Inter Milan hosting Feyenoord. Currently, Inter a 1.5 favorite at home with a little bit more juice on Feyenoord. Totals 2.75 juice all the way to over. And this was a pretty interesting first leg that I thought Inter Milan, who have been kind of struggling in Serie A and Italy, looked very good in this competition, looked very dominant on the road at Feyenoord. as we have huge planes going by. I guess I should have shut my door before I turned this podcast on, but oh well, c'est la vie. From an Inter perspective, or from an Inter's perspective, I think I mean, didn't know what to do with the penalty late. Got pretty fortunate, I thought, to get one. And then it was saved by a great thank you to the Feyenoord goalkeeper for keeping the match under and keeping this somewhat close for a second leg. But Feyenoord, they have to go score goals. And the problem is they don't really have a defense that I'd want to back, really. And then they now have to go score and turn over a 2-goal deficit on the road in Inter. I mean, we've seen Inter play pragmatic football with a lead in Serie A of a single goal. I think we see them, despite having a really strong front line, that seems to be the healthiest part of them, Thuram and Lautaro Martinez. At this point, one of the most dangerous fronts in all of European football, and honestly, one I look to back as an underdog in future legs of this competition. But I think at this point, Inter, you got to trust them to probably worry more about their own net and protect against Feyenoord goals. So I do like under again here. Felt pretty like a good bet, and then honestly felt pretty fortunate with a penalty save to win in the first leg. But I think that's probably the way to you're backing Feyenoord a little bit, but ultimately not backing them to score a bunch of goals. It's very juiced right now, 2 3/4 to over. Certainly would see a lot of value on that 3 if I could get that as a push. Potentially a push, but I think Inter advance here. I think they step on the neck, and we don't even have a 2 advanced number at BetOnline. So clearly they're not trying to give any money away on Inter, who look like a pretty dominant case here with a 2-goal advantage and heading home to San Siro with a lot of people outside saying "Prego," which I think is like a "you're welcome" type thing, not just a pasta sauce here in the United States. To the last matchup on Tuesday, it's the battle of Bayern and Bayer Leverkusen. Very close in linguistics, but very different in budgets and in locations in Germany and in chances to win the German Bundesliga's Meisterschale this season. Bayer Leverkusen, they lost 3-0 on the first leg. I mean, a comedy of errors. Backup goalkeeper who dropped a ball that was kicked right in after Bayern München had taken a lead early on a Harry Kane header. Can't say much about the header. It's good cross in, though certainly Leverkusen could have defended it better. Just didn't expect Michael Olise, who's a left footer, to cross his right foot despite playing on the right wing. Kind of surprised that they would just let that happen, but we're behind 1-0. Things were fine. Leverkusen probably would have accepted a 1-0 loss away from home. And then things got even uglier. That goalkeeper mistake, backup goalkeeper who's been a cup goalkeeper all season, but at some point you probably should, when the league's kind of out of your hands, you probably want to, use your best goalkeeper, though certainly Lucas Hradecki is not by any means infallible. And then they brought in after getting a man sent off, because Nordi Mukiele, who had, I think, not defended the first kick of the match. That might have been Hincapié, actually. It probably was Piero. But anyway, Nordi Mukiele made a big mistake, taking a ridiculous second yellow. And then the defender who was subbed on for him, as Bayer Leverkusen were trying to limit damage, decided to hold Harry Kane in the box for a penalty, which, of course, Harry Kane finished. So that went about as badly as it could. Started off poorly. It got worse, and got horribly wrong. Then Leverkusen don't show up on the weekend, make a horrible mistake as Xavi Alonso continues to make really baffling decisions in starting Mario Hermoso, who basically Atletico Madrid didn't want to keep him despite really spending every dollar they could this summer. And they even had Çağlar Söyüncü in that club at one point, which is amazing. So honestly, at this point, Xavi Alonso, I mean, it looked like they were so lucky last year to go undefeated all season. Incredible record that they had until they lost the Europa League final, but got dominated by Ademola Lookman. But at this point, I feel like the jury is back in on Xavi Alonso, if that's possible to say. I just don't trust him. I don't think he makes good decisions. Constantly leaving out strikers against Bayern München was his way to try to keep games close. Now, I don't know what he's going to do because he has to avenge a 3-goal deficit. They are at home, but they couldn't score against Werder Bremen, who were playing probably the worst football in the German Bundesliga of anyone, besides maybe Bayer Leverkusen. Except that's not close because Bayer Leverkusen were at least fighting for a championship in Champions League and advancing, and Werder Bremen were getting eliminated and to third tier sides in the DFB Pokal. But then I guess if you want to talk about things, Bayern München, with a big lead in the German Bundesliga, lost this weekend at home to VfL Bochum, took a 2-0 lead, 2-1, 2-2, or red card, 2-2, 3-2. I mean, pretty wild that happened that way. But it was a missed opportunity for Leverkusen, who lost anyway. So, man, not really to either of these teams heading into this competition playing well by any stretch. I think Leverkusen is a quarter goal underdog, especially with their dominance against Bayern München over the seasons until this past Wednesday. Is certainly worth a look, though it's a scary one, a scary look at that. Would also expect there to be a lot of pragmatism shown by Bayern München. We think we've seen more of that under Vincent Kompany, of course, as a defender in his past. I do think that Leverkusen are worth a look. It's going to take a lot of gall, intestinal fortitude, cojones, or balls, that they might say in other places, to back them as after that horrible performance. There is the argument you can make that that's the perfect time to back a team. In terms of the 2 advanced number, we have Bayern München minus 4,000, so 1-40. You have to bet $4,000 to win just 100. On the Leverkusen side, plus 1,250, so $100 will win you 1,250. Pretty big, but even at home, I don't expect them to turn over that deficit. Certainly would not be good for over, or excuse me, for under. Would be great for over, because that would send it over if somehow Leverkusen were able to score 3 to force extra time. But I think I'm looking forward to seeing this number climb to potential 3. I think we see Leverkusen win this match potentially, or draw it, which I think both those, or just getting a home result, I think is fairly possible, considering they've done that in not losing to Bayern München over, I think, 7 straight competitions or 7 straight meetings until just 6 days ago. And that's probably my biggest interest in that matchup, more so than the total, and certainly don't want much to do with the side, or excuse me, the 2 advanced numbers. So I guess Leverkusen, a quarter goal underdog, is my favorite on that one. Man, it's ugly. And I got to say, for Tuesday Champions League, I'm going to make that my best bet selection as a possibility for the ultimate best bet. Come in at 73% end of show. It is gross, but sometimes that's what it takes to win. You got to hold your nose, like I just did accidentally on this video. So before we get to the Wednesday card, I want to mention the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast, as I'm wearing my shirt over my face right now. I'll just talk through it for a second. Probably better for the hit rate anyway. The Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast. If you want some swag, hit up at Big East Ben on Twitter. I think we have a couple extra shirts. They do run a little small, though, FYI. Either that, or I've just been hitting the gym too hard. Other than that, we have a pregame now episode, twitter.com/pregame now, with the a precursor, whatever, a appetizer for the biggest conference tournaments, and potentially some dark horses across those events. That's out there now. We'll be doing another episode covering our 5 biggest interested games coming up on the conference tournament slate, at least games that are already announced, because it's going to be too hard to do every day. And then stay tuned for every day of the NCAA tournament. We will be doing a nightly recap with picks for the next day, and go find that on the probably my YouTube channel at @the_Real_G Warner, and anything that pregame.com will pick up. We've yet to, I guess, negotiate exactly how that will go. But of course, stay tuned. And as always, hit me on Twitter at @the_Real_G Warner, or just look there and I'll try to give some updates on what we'll be doing. Of course, subscribing at @the_Real_G Warner on YouTube would be huge, and leaving a 5-star review, and I guess following the podcast on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify under Betting the Pitch. That would be the best way to find everything. But I will try to keep this all in one place. And want to thank my Patreon subscribers, and we'll be doing my own personal without Big East Ben, unless he wants to be on it. But I think it's just going to be me talking to all of you, trying to get you ready for your March Madness pools and such coming up. So check that out, patreon.com/real_G Warner, exclusive to my loyal subscribers. Okay, now let's get to Wednesday, and we'll start in the early matchup with Lille hosting Borussia Dortmund, currently a pick'em. Juice split both ways. Totals 2.5. Juice almost all the way to over. So I have Lille to advance. I also bet them in the first leg. Did not look great in the first half, but on the road at the Schwarzgelben, maybe Bruno Genesio was trying to just stay in the game. And then Lille ended up getting a great goal in the second half. Looked like they deserved even more than that. Borussia Dortmund went into a shell, and Lille escaped and get to go home and will try to advance on their home patch. Really great position for penalties, though it didn't really work in the Coupe de France against Dunkirk of all teams. But really love the situation, and honestly still like Lille as a pick 'em. Because I think they're the better side. It's hard to say anything or think anything different after watching Borussia Dortmund lose at home to Augsburg this weekend and get whistled and plenty of middle fingers thrown at the players after the match. Incredible what German soccer fandom is like in this world. It's amazing. But I got to say, I'm very interested in being against Borussia Dortmund. I'm happy with my position. In terms of the two advanced number, Borussia Dortmund minus 107 to Lille minus 114. Still makes it look like Lille are very, very cheap. Basically a pick 'em at home, and they are slightly more expensive than that to advance here, which I think if I'm you, if you don't have a Lille position, certainly look into grabbing that, as I think Lille is the better team. They're at home, and I think that their kind of wobbles in Liga and such really just distracted from an incredible run in Champions League, which they couldn't keep up forever. Total in this one, 2.5. Juice to the over does, I think, reflect the lower scoring Champions League expectation. Certainly both these teams can score goals, but I think playing against each other, I think they will be more likely to score less. I think Lille will try to take advantages or control this matchup on their home pitch with their home crowd behind them. I think Borussia Dortmund will probably let that happen. The only change, I think, is if Dortmund take a lead. I think they'll go even more conservative, as we've seen that from Niko Kovac so far, their second manager of the season, who started way too late after the writing was more than on the wall about Nuri Sahin. But that's a club problem and them not understanding who should manage them, I guess. I think, as I notice a blanket I want out of this shot. I don't know necessarily that there's a lot I want to do with the total here. Certainly could see it being a back and forth goal scoring matchup, but I think that's probably less likely in a very timid, tense matchup where Lille are trying to kind of, they know that they're a smaller club from France. A lot of their players are probably being looked at by Borussia Dortmund, especially Jonathan David, their striker, Canadian, who's not going to be returning to the club. I think that's been announced, and they've been trying to figure out what to do without him. Seeing Chuba Akpom playing in front of him in some matches has been curious, but I think we see a low-scoring match here. I think if you're not on Lille, I think minus 114 feels very, very short for to advance on a home team that I think, especially from what we've seen with Borussia Dortmund, they've been better away from home in Champions League, but they've been awful in Bundesliga. They've been really bad, I think, and got lucky in a bunch of their road matches. So give me Lille on a pick'em. Give me Lille under 2.5 is probably my third biggest interest. So I like pick'em the most. I like the two advanced number. I think I have a plus 145. So a little bit different price here, to say the least. But I guess I could probably address where that number has been. Let's see. So initially at open, we had Lille plus 115. That climbed, I think, to plus 145 or so, where I locked in right as we got to kickoff. And that's a change of 200%, which I don't think makes sense. I think my numbers are off when it's switching from underdog to favorite, I think. But I guess I can say that Dortmund have moved down about 31% from minus 140 to minus 107. So it's been a significant change, I guess you could say. But considering the drastic differences we've seen elsewhere, I don't think it's that crazy. Like Lille, like them at home, and nothing is done to kind of change that opinion. Moving next to the big window of matches, and this will be the last three we'll go through, and then we'll get out of here with Ultimate Best Bet. Thank you for tuning in, of course. We'll start with Atletico Madrid hosting Real Madrid. Currently, Atleti a pick'em, a little bit more juice. Totals 2.75, juice all the way to over. And I'm not afraid to admit, I backed Atleti and under in the first leg, and Atleti to advance. So I'm invested there and still believe in Atletico Madrid. We saw three incredible goals, two from Real Madrid that I thought were, I guess, I don't know. I can't really just separate them. There are three great goals. That's not good for unders, of course. But I think we see Atleti at home in a huge Madrid derby, and we see what to me are very similar teams, and I think Atletico Madrid are at discount. They need to win. That does certainly make the pick'em a little bit scary late in a match if they are drawing or they're on level terms, that they could potentially concede that empty net goal. But I think that Atleti also have a really good chance to win this match, to potentially win and advance in regular time. Plus, I think if they're ahead by a goal and this is getting towards the end of a match, we see the last 10 minutes, no one wanting to make a mistake, and this goes to extra time, and you've won your side on this portion of the bet. I also think that Real Madrid are going to play their pragmatic version of Champions League football, which has been really successful under Carlo Ancelotti. I think we see a low-scoring match here, so 2 3/4 juiced all the way to over. Does make me think that there's some value here, especially if we can get a 3 up until kickoff. To advanced numbers, Real Madrid now minus 300, which is respectful. I'll put it that way. Up from minus 185, an increase of about 38%. So we're seeing a lot of 30% number changes based on results in first legs. Atleti up from plus 150 to plus 235, so an increase of 36%. And I do think that, Atleti, I'm not going to add more from my initial perspective. I still have I guess my bet is essentially like 42% or something like that Atleti can advance here, and I don't see any reason to change that. It wasn't a great first leg, but ultimately a single goal loss at the Bernabeu and getting to come home is exactly what you would want if it's the best losing position you could have, and away goals don't matter. So, which I guess might even hurt a little bit, but I think Atleti are late goal masters. I think that while it certainly could be drawing late and you don't want to end up turning a push into a loss, I want to see if Real Madrid gets bet tomorrow or all the way up till kickoff on Wednesday. I think they will. And I don't really agree with it necessarily. So I lean to Atleti, I lean to under 2 3/4, and I lean to, if I don't have anything on Atletico Madrid, I wouldn't really think it's a terrible idea to look at the plus 235 for them to advance. So I could certainly understand with the second leg at home, it's a very different thing than if you'd bet them in the first leg. Next, go to Aston Villa hosting Club Bruges. Currently, Aston Villa a 1-goal favorite with more juice on Bruges away from home. Totals 2 3/4, juice all the way to over. This was 3-1 the first leg, 1-1 after Villa got a goal on a set piece. Bruges equalized, and then own goal followed by insane. It wasn't a bad call. So for all the riffing I do on referees, it was not their fault, but just a really tough penalty given away by Bruges, and that really hurt them for advancing here. I do think that going away from home with a 1 goal of insurance in their pocket, I don't think Bruges will give up. I do think that Bruges will be more aggressive, more attacking, and I do think that does put the total in a little bit more of a peril. But I also think Aston Villa, we've seen them do very well at not conceding goals at home. If they win 1-0, they're celebrating. They draw 1-1, they're celebrating. There's a lot that needs to happen for Bruges to advance here. And so I feel like there's some value on the underdog because I think they were very competitive in the first leg. And I also think that the under has a lot of room to potentially take some bets and make some money, especially if this moves to a 3-goal total when it looks like it should point. Certainly the juice is pointing that direction. There's a Bruges plus 1150 to advance number here, which is gigantic, minus 3,300. So 1 to 33 to Aston Villa to advance, increases of 79 and 90% from the initial Bruges plus 240, Aston Villa minus 310. I don't have any stake in that one, which is fortunate because I did like Bruges in the first leg, but I do here again as well. Last but not least, we have Arsenal and PSV Eindhoven, which I could probably spend very little time on. Arsenal 1 1/4 goal favorites, more juice, totals 2 3/4, juice more to the under. And Arsenal they have had goal scoring problems for a long time, and they found a way to get out of that in that first leg. Dominant 7-1 final. Everyone that wanted a goal or needed a goal got one. I don't think that changes things on Arsenal's goal problems. But I'm curious what PSV Eindhoven will throw out there because they know that they can't advance. They've done a lot of selling of players, and I don't know necessarily if there's a really great situation going on there. I do think they play for pride. I think that matters in Champions League, but does it matter enough in a really tough place to play in the most expensive league in the world with the probably most valuable roster in the world as well? All those things kind of stacked against this one. I think we see a pretty lifeless game here. So it makes me lean to the goal and a quarter underdog, the under 2 3/4, and I have nothing to do with the 2 advanced number as that has already been decided. That's probably my weakest feeling and really depends a lot on what these lineups look like. I would think Arsenal will be focused on trying. I mean, they know they can't win the Premier League, but they're going to play like they can. And I don't know really what they're playing for at this point besides trying to keep people healthy. So could see a ton of rotation here from Arsenal. And that would certainly, the problem is they don't have any bodies to do it. So I don't really even know what to say about that. It's possible, but improbable, unlikely, all those sort of things. So I got to make a pick for Wednesday for the ultimate best bet, which then I will push on to the later rounds, I guess, or I guess when I pick exactly what my favorite best bet will be. I'm going to go with, actually, no, I'll save it for this 1 minute video that I'm about to put up. Where the heck is my phone? Dang it, it's over here. Pause for 1 second. Hold on, I will get it. And then it's time for the ultimate best bet. Just imagine there's since there's no advertising on this channel just yet, just imagine that there's an advertisement coming in. And we're back. Quickest advertising ever. It's like, it's almost like we were not having advertisers, or it was on some sort of recording video area that I was able to just, do it all and fast forward all the commercials, like one of those skip things on YouTube. Anyway, you could follow this podcast on YouTube at @the_Real_G Warner or on Instagram at @the_Real_G Warner if you want this 1 minute video. I'm doing a very awkward positioning of my chest so you can show the Need for Seeds podcast so I can kind of cross promote. But yes, we'll be going live throughout every day of the college basketball tournament, including hopefully Final Four in San Antonio, as Airbnb is booked. Still figuring out tickets though. So anyone with that info, please holla at your boy at @the_Real_G Warner across any social media platform. But it's time to get into ultimate best bet. So let's record it. 3, 2, and 1. Hey, this is Real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. It's the ultimate best bet for the Champions League knockout round, second leg of the round of 16. I go through my favorite best bet on each of the days of Champions League. I smashed together in this 1 minute video, and I'm wearing the Need for Seeds College Basketball podcast shirt because we're cross-promoting, going very deep in the weeds, especially the NCAA tournament coming up. So make sure you follow at @the_Real_G Warner across all social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, Patreon, especially if you want my picks across all sports. But for the ultimate best bet on this episode, we're 36-13, 73% so far this season. From Tuesday, I like Bayer Leverkusen, a quarter goal underdog at home. And on Wednesday, I like Lille, a pick'em to Borussia Dortmund. And for the ultimate best bet on this episode, trying to improve on that 73%, I'm going to go with Lille, a pick'em. I think they win at home to Borussia Dortmund. I think Dortmund's road problems show up even more, especially after a really debilitating loss at home to Augsburg this weekend. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back on Wednesday night for the Europa League edition. And also we'll be doing plenty more on college basketball stuff going through. It's going to be a no sleep for the next couple weeks for me, but look forward to you all joining me throughout. And really look forward to what will be a big NCAA tournament coming up very, very soon. Like I said, if you got any pools or things that are running, please hit me up at @the_Real_G Warner. I'd love to join or do any head-to-head competitions or anything you'd like to do. Would be fun.
Recording stopped.